Hello, New Zealand. Welcome to Straight Talk. This is episode 119. I'm Bob McCoskrie. In this episode, we discuss a digital driver's license on your phone. Are you excited? And what could possibly go wrong? Why is the government targeting homeschoolers? And what happened to so-called consultation? The legislation, definitions of Woman and Man Amendment Bill, which would define woman as adult human female and man also in law, got through its first reading last week. Despite the opposition of the opposition parties, where to from here? Should we put English before Māori on signs, or doesn't it really matter? The government wants to cut jobs in the public sector and rely more on AI. Is that a good policy? And if we have time, we might find out whether the panellists think we should focus more on immigration or having more babies. Anyway, without further ado, let's meet our panellists. And we've got a doozy lineup for you tonight because we've even got a guest panellist. So from the top left, firstly, Peter Mortlock in Auckland. How are you, Peter?
Good, thanks, Bob. Good to be with you again. Thank you.
Lovely to have you on. Tanya Unkovic is with us again after a bit of a period of travelling. Nice to have you back in New Zealand, Tanya.
Thank you. It's always good to be on the show.
Simon O'Connor, who I just can't seem to get rid of, no matter how many notices I give him and, warnings, letters of sackings. He just keeps turning up. He's like a boomerang. How are you, Simon?
Like rust. I'm actually quite exhausted after moving my stepson over the last 48 hours, moving house. So if I just pass out, you can take that as a win.
Okay. And we're very excited to have a guest panellist, Ro Edge, who you'll be familiar with because we have had her on Political Playback and interviewed her. She's part of Save Women's Sport Australasia. She's a prolific tweeter on X. We just love her work, and so we're stoked to have her on the panel. Rose, special welcome to you. Welcome to Straight Talk.
Thank you. It's lovely to be able to join you tonight.
Now, just very quickly, firstly, the image of the week, and it's Kate Shepherd who said, I fought for your right to vote in 1893, and now you don't even know what a woman is. I've actually got two videos of the week, to be honest. I did pick one, and then another one came up, which you guys will probably have a laugh at. But the one that I did pick up was this one called TERF Island. Of course, TERF is a derogatory term that is used on people who understand that you're either born male or female. But this is called TERF Island.
Welcome to TERF Island, a place beyond the reach of modern academic poppycock. Many experts today insist such a place doesn't exist, and yet it clearly does. Here, women's sports are for women. The inhabitants even appear to distinguish males from females. These ideologists are baffled. On TERF Island, language retains its actual meaning. Mothers are female. Girls are, well, girls. Female athletes receive female trophies. And first-place podiums have room for just one girl. After only a few days among the islanders, some researchers began exhibiting signs of biological clarity, proving TERF Island isn't behind the times, it's vastly ahead of them.
Yeah, there we are. That's Riley Gaines' organisation, and they're doing some great work just lobbying on this particular issue. Look, that was going to be the video of the week, but the video of the week actually happened last night. It's been all the news this week. And I'm keen to just get your response to this, panellists. We've accidentally come across the way that the Labour Party are doing their media training. And it's about, now what is it? It's well, anyway, somebody said they've cracked the code of how to get back in government because they're talking, their media training is about horse-sized ducks or duck-sized horses. And you've got to be careful how fast you say that. But anyway, this was their kind of media training, which has been leaked and everybody's been having a chuckle at.
Horse-sized duck, because Christopher Luxon is a sitting duck and we are coming for you.
We are up against 100 duck-sized horses at the moment because horses are full of shit.
But every week I have to stand up in the house and ask a duck-faced horse, did I get that right? Questions every single week. And I have the glory of being able to question her or debate her in debates. I'm gonna take my duck to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I got
Okay, now if you get media training like that, get out of there. Tanya, I thought, I mean, that sort of slur that was used by Barbara Edmonds, who's the spokesperson for finance, and so that's aimed at Nicola Willis, the Minister of Finance. I thought the persecution and the ridiculing of female MPs was being done by somebody else, not other female MPs. Where have I gone wrong here?
Well, actually, very few of those MPs used to say hello to me when I crossed them in Parliament. Look, this kind of behaviour just goes to show you that no amount of media training is going to buy you class, right? So big waste of money there. I thought it was pretty immature, pretty pathetic. And, you know, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And remember this on November the 7th, people.
Yeah, I mean, Ro, Tamitha Paul was going on last week about how, you know, female MPs were getting it, you know, constantly being insulted. And, you know, Andrea Vance, the Stuff reporter, was going on about how female MPs are constantly getting it. And yet it's female MPs and female reporters that are doing the most insulting. So are we missing something here?
Well, it seems that it's open door if you want to insult anyone on the right. It doesn't matter. But if the right insult anyone on the left, it's, you know, absolute carnage, and they should lose their jobs and be gone. It's the hypocrisy is unbelievable. You know, I watched One News tonight to see how they would report this. And, you know, Chris Hipkins just batted it off. Oh, it was just a silly mistake, you know, and they away with that. That would never have been the case if a National MP had called a Labor female MP that. But, you know, I actually thought that Barbara Edmonds was a nice person. She comes across as quite nice. But as for Alicia Verrill, well, gosh, it's hard to say that she makes a better MP than a singer, but she does.
I just want to get rid of the media training. Simon, did you have that same media training when you were an MP?
We had media training, but not with such absurdities or that type of response. Look, there's a small part of me feels a little sorry for them, in that there's always political banter. I know it's terrible to say it.
You have been working too hard today. It's gone to your head.
I know. No, I mean, it's not appropriate. I agree with Tanya and Ro. It's immature, it's hypocritical and all of that. But there is banter directed at your opponents. I think actually the bigger issue to me is someone leaked it. This was an internal party activity behind closed doors, as would be expected. A little bit of levity, inappropriate as it is, and it's been leaked. I think that shows a much, much deeper problem within the Labor Party.
Okay, Peter, it's I think maybe you should go down and do some media training with them, but it's sort of, I mean, is this just fun? It's just kind of, you know, it is larking around, or does it show that they're starting to run out of ideas maybe?
I just think it's absolutely pathetic. Let's just call it for what it is. It's absolutely childish behaviour. We're paying these MPs to be down there, and then we're paying probably for this media trainer. And Simon, I can't agree with you. I mean, it should be leaked. This sort of behaviour should be made public, because it's just absolutely pathetic. It's not good enough for the people who represent our country to be talking about each other like this, and all those barbs down in Parliament. I mean, I don't know. I think New Zealanders, the average New Zealander, is just absolutely sick the way that Parliament behaves. And it's just not ought to be that way. We've got to get on running the country, not jibing at each other the whole time. They're just a bunch of pathetic losers down there at the moment. Okay,
well summed up. I mean, I just, you know, just imagine if, as Ro, you said, if this had been aimed at a Labor MP or a Green MP, had been aimed at Jacinda. I mean, it would be leading every story. Like you say, Ro, yeah, I forced myself to watch a little bit of One News. In fact, I don't think 3 News even covered it, but One News, it was Chris Hipkins defending it and saying, oh, look, just a reminder, everything you say is going to be public, but not actually the tone of what they said. Anyway, I just did want to read this comment. This came through right at the beginning. And he says, how can I sing when you're in love with a beautiful woman? To our Minister for Women when she doesn't quite understand what a woman is. I wonder if she was on a sinking ship and the captain said, man the lifeboats, women and children first, if she would have a sudden epiphany. Anyway, so we are going to come back to that topic of the definition of man and woman bill. But anyway, let's firstly digital driver licenses are going to be available soon. And it also applies to warrant of fitnesses, registration documents. However, the Spark-owned technology company behind all of this was also behind New Zealand's COVID-era My Vaccine Pass system. Remember that? So should we be nervous? Who's going to take advantage of it? I mean, to be honest, team, I would love my passport on my phone also, because I'm always panicking that I'm going to lose it. So I'm interested to know, are you going to get a digital driver's license? Simon, I'll start with you. Are you going to get a digital driver's license? Or aren't you allowed to tell me?
Well, that's right, confidential. Look, it depends on what data it's accessing. I'm relaxed at one point because the data's already there. I mean, you hand over your physical driver's license to the police or the VTNZ, they've got enormous amounts of data on you. I mean, just go and try and pay your toll roads, as I've done today. They've got enormous amounts of your data already. I think what's worrying me more is the government has been saying this is a very light-handed approach, but actually work that others have done have exposed us to being actually quite a broad and deep approach to a wider digital ID framework. And I'm concerned by that, and I'm concerned by the fact that they're pushing it to the side. But I think a lot of it, at day's end, enormous amounts of information are already held by government. So around the driver's license, I'm not too fussed. They've got all that information already, whether it's on my card or on my phone.
Okay. Would you like your passport on your phone? I would.
I don't know. There's something about me. I like my physical one. I don't know what it is exactly. I mean, again, they've got all the data. When I land at an airport, they know not only where I've been over the last 6 years, they know how I bought that ticket. They know what seats I've been in. There's just the amount of data which they have already, I think, surmounts what most people think they have. But I don't know.
Okay.
I like a physical passport.
Okay. Well, I mean, see, I don't. When I travel with my children, I'm constantly saying, have you got your passport? Do you know where your passport is? In fact, I text my son just on the way here to say, do you know where your passport is? Because he's going to need it soon. But they have no problem finding their phone. They've always got their phone with them. So anyway, Peter, are you going to get a digital driver's license?
Well, this isn't the mark of the beast, let's be honest, but which is coming. And I think we got to understand that where this is all going, it is part of the program. The globalization is going to lead to digital currency, no two ways about that. And I agree with Simon. They've got huge amount of data on us already, and it's going to happen. I mean, sooner or later, it'll be digital IDs, digital driver's license, digital passports, leading to digital currencies. All these data centers that are massive data centers that are being built around the world right now. It's not a conspiracy, but these are to control the whole deal. And, obviously from a biblical point of view, I understand where this is heading. And so would I get one? Eventually, I probably will have to have a digital driver's license and a digital ID, because I said it's not the mark of the beast yet. But I think as we can push back as long as we can and understand that the globalization of the world is at hand, and there's a big agenda out there and our government's part of it. And I think we need to push back as much as we can, because all these things are just, I think, pushing towards one direction.
Tanya, do you worry about this?
Look, I agree with all of the above, and I think that this ship has already sailed in a way. I don't know if everyone noticed all of the cameras that went up during those COVID years. They just appeared, and everyone was distracted, and all of this sort of CCTV came up and everything else. So, look, I know that it's happening. Not long ago, I took a photo of someone who was misbehaving outside my window, and I phoned the police, and they found them within a couple of seconds. I was still on the phone because I had their car rego. And that was an example of of how they are tracking. And that was quite a number of years ago. So am I concerned? Look, I don't stay awake at night. Am I going to get put it on my phone? No, I don't want a digital driver's license or passport. I'm like Simon. I like to have it in my hand. I'm a bit of a rebel. I didn't get a vaccine pass on my phone either. So,
okay. Although, can I be a little mischievous and just ask, do you have your bank cards on your phone? Do you use PayWave?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So have we already, that's where I wonder, have we already actually lost, as you alluded to, have we already compromised a little bit and lost the moral high ground on all of this?
I think so. Just traveling in and out of the States, for example, or even coming home, they're recognizing my face as soon as I step on that sand, So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
always
agree
a
with
worry,
everyone
actually,
else's
Tanya.
comment.
That's actually a bit of a scary admission that they actually have your face in the system and they're recognising it. Is there red flags around you or something? Have you got
No, not
anything
yet.
you want to share with us?
No,
Because Simon
really...
has just admitted that he had to give his driver's licence to a cop recently, which you know what that means. So, you did, Simon? Did you get caught speeding? No further comment.
No,
I do know that
no aspersions here.
Well, I just remember the last time I got a ticket, which I won't tell you when it was, but I think I remember that I gave them my name and they told me what my address was. They already knew. Oh. Anyway, Ro, should we be panicking?
Oh, look, it's about the mission creep, really, isn't it? Like they'll start off, they're saying that the digital licenses will just sit on your phones, that they won't go into a database. But how long will that be for? So, what starts off as being a convenient tool all of a sudden could expand to, automated cameras, like scanning your car every time you drive past to make sure you've got your rego and warrant of fitness up to date and fining you immediately if you don't, which they would find I don't. But I do worry about it. But then I see the convenience of it too. I caught up with some old school friends in the weekend, and one was bemoaning the fact that she tried to load her driver's license onto her phone and couldn't. So yeah, it is like I can see the ease of use. I mean, the card is having your credit card on there is easier, and I can see that having your passport and your driver's license on there too would be. But it's where does it end? And I think Peter probably nailed it, the direction that we're travelling.
Yeah. I mean, our phones are already being tracked anyway. They know what we're doing, and aren't they already listening to us? I mean, Peter, if you start talking about the fact that you really enjoyed your time in Waikiki at some stage in the last couple of years, if you've been there, you'll suddenly start getting ads about holidays in Hawaii. So we're being listened to. We're being watched every time you walk down the main street. It's just the new norm, isn't it?
Well, it is the new norm, and the brave new world is here. I'm sure we all have all heard that term. The world has changed rapidly, obviously, and COVID kind of brought in a whole new era for us. And we're going to be facing these sort of things again. And there's times where I think you've not only got to push back while we can and speak up while we can, but as I said, the day will come where we will have to make a decision, one way or the other. Everybody have to make that decision. But I've still got my first driver's license that I ever got, and once upon a time, driver's licenses were for lifetime, so I've kept all my paper passports. Yeah,
I've got that too.
I've got the whole deal, and I like paper. I'm a paper person. Even I print out all my boarding passes, so I like paper, but I understand the convenience of all this techo. But Tanya's right. All the surveillance cameras that are up, I mean, they've got more on us now than what most people realize. But we do have to understand that we're losing our freedom, and it's all about convenience and all about safety. This will be all to keep you safe and all for your convenience. And I understand, the logic of that, but you've got to, I think, understand the motive of the global players.
Yeah, and there are some risks there, right? Because like what they talk about today as being convenient verification can easily be necessary for social cohesion or for climate measures, and so that's the stretch that we have to really be concerned about. And don't New Zealand First have a bill in the biscuit tin to basically protect the ability to always have a physical ID? Yeah. Pretty sure it probably wouldn't get passed by this parliament, but at least I guess it pulled out, we get to have the conversation and raise the concerns.
It was also to not make us go cashless, to maintain actual physical money. I actually had to go and get some cash out of the bank for a friend, and so I went in and I couldn't pay wave. And so I actually had to get out a physical cash flow card, and then I couldn't remember what the PIN number was because I've never used it. I've just pay waved I just swipe, if I walk past you and I'm swiping, I'm just paying for stuff. Well, that's what my wife tells me to do anyway. And so, I mean, Simon, you've been in Parliament for 12 years. Is this some grand plan by the government to get more control of us, or is this simply technology and it's just the new normal?
Well, firstly, I just wanted Don't know if you wanted to share what that PIN number was, just so we could all refresh your memory in the future.
Doesn't know it.
I just wipe my card. It just pays for everything. Everything my wife buys, it pays for. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm not sure how to phrase this, and I'm not trying to be diplomatic or to dodge it. I don't think there's any grand conspiracy. This is not a grand, coordinated, well thought out, articulate plan. But there are a whole lot of various groups and individuals, bureaucrats and others who are slowly pushing us towards, as Peter's talking, that sort of globalized connectivity. So how you reconcile those two is a little bit more difficult. But, Tanya may have a perspective too, but MPs are not lurking in the corridors, plotting and planning these things. You go, oh, let's do this, this, and this. But it's just sort of this inexorable move towards more and more convenience, but at the cost of your privacy. But again, I don't see a grand conspiracy. There is no group around a table, but there are groups and individuals who are definitely drawing us towards that.
I think they're plotting in their media training roundtables, Simon.
Quack, quack.
They're trying to crack the code.
Melissa Gates was out here before the vaccine, just with Jacinda Ardern, spending a lot of time with her. I'm sure they weren't plotting, Simon.
Just have a look at a couple of comments. Pot of Gold says, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," seems to be the forgotten saying, which is true. Dean's trying to get those ads on his phone, so he's printed "I loved Hawaii." And Murray warns, he says, "Come on, guys, wake up. If you do something minor, they will shut you down. No access to bank or car," which I think, that's kind of the excessive government control, isn't it? All right, let's keep on moving on. And look, bit of a big stir at the end of last week. The Ministry of Education has admitted in its official documents that it didn't consult homeschooling families before proposing amendments to the Education Act that will introduce sweeping new regulatory powers over homeschooling. They said it was due to time constraints, but the document then states that consultation will happen after the bill passes and the regulations are developed. In other words, legislate first, ask families later. And the big question is, why are they in such a rush? Now, here's how the Minister of Education, Erica Stanford, tried to defend it.
I did receive some letters and reports from both the Education Review Office and also the Ministry of Education late last year and early this year, highlighting serious concerns. The thing that sparked this urgent work on our part to protect children was the Gloria Vale cases and the fact that ERO wrote to me with serious concerns. This will be fully consulted on over the next year with the homeschooling associations to make sure we get the regulations right.
Okay, well, that's kind of the guarantee that's being made, Ro. Does that calm your nerves about all this, or something worse going on, do you think?
Really poor politics, right? Making changes after public consultation has finished. And I hear today, I'm pretty sure I heard Cynthia Hancock's on the platform mention that the ERO had adjusted their report that they'd done on Gloria Vale. So the first report came up that it was potentially the majority of children were being really well educated there. And then 2 years later, their report completely changes and the majority of children aren't being well educated there. So I don't know what's going on. Erica Stanford's done some great work with reforms in education, but handing the bureaucracy an open ticket to create regulations is utter madness. It's so wrong. This happened, the same scenario happened with the sex self-ID legislation. When they were making changes to the BDMR bill, they brought in those changes for sex self-ID after public consultation, after the select committee process had finished, and I just think it's really, really poor from this government to repeat that.
Okay, Tanya, should we be concerned about what's going on here? I mean, I think we need to remember that this to have been introduced the way it was, and maybe Simon can clarify this, but Tanya, this would mean that New Zealand First and ACT have agreed with National that this is part of the amendments being introduced. So it's been signed off, it seems, at cabinet level, has it?
Yes, it has. And that's what I find quite concerning. And it was done last week when there was a lot of noise about the other bill that was going through the House. I don't know if you noticed. So it's, I just invite people to not get distracted by the noise of other things going on whilst other pieces of legislation are slowly being slipped under the radar. And that is my big concern. I mean, look what went through the House at midnight during lockdown, and a lot of people don't know about it. Here's another thing that concerns me is the slow, insidious breakdown of the family unit. People homeschool for a reason. They don't want others interfering as much. They want to do things differently. People I know who homeschool want to keep a lot of focus on the family unit and the importance of parents, children, babies, and things like that. And I see this as just a very slow, like I always use those words, insidious creep of change that slowly get pushed through and people don't notice. That is my concern, is this breakdown on the family, and it's coming from a lot of our leaders.
Okay, and I thought it was very funny, the One News coverage, because they actually showed an example homeschooling family, and you'd probably think that it would be, a trad mum in a far-right house with lots of Christian regalia on the wall and everything like that. But actually, it was slightly different. Have a watch.
The lack of consultation, a real worry for this Wellington mum who homeschools her child with disabilities.
The potential for mandating more like reporting and exams and assessments for rangatahi that are disabled and or not well just seems like knocking people down.
Okay, so it wasn't quite the imagery that maybe they were planning on selling, because I would say that they're after homeschooling because they're thinking, okay, there's going to be a whole lot of Christian families that are doing this. Peter, we know that the Labor government previously went after Bethlehem College because they had a statement that said marriage should be one man, one woman. So we probably shouldn't be surprised that homeschoolers are in the target as well, eh?
Right. And it's said that they always make excuses why they're doing things. It's like they're always making a study about something and so forth. I think to use Gloryvale as an example is not a good example. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call that a homeschool. It is actually a school. And it's a little bit different from parents, who've chosen to educate their children. I mean, they are, parents have children. They are their children. I know the state would like to not think so, but, if parents want to bring up their children that way or whatever way, that's really, for me, up to the parent. But most studies I've seen is 99% of homeschool parents do a great job, and they're way better educated than what our state education system is doing. As you know, we have a very successful Christian school, not it's not integrated with the government. But the thing is that not every parent can homeschool, but a lot of parents want to, and they do a great job with it. And so they should have the right. And for Erica to not have consultation with them, I think is just, not good. It's not good politics. It's not good policy. They needed to consult and so forth. And so most homeschoolers do a great job. And then to make an exemption just because of one case they're citing, I don't think that's good.
Okay, I do want to come around and just ask all of you about how much homeschooling should be regulated, given that, look, some parents may be rogue. We don't know, but should there be some accountability? But just before I do that, Simon, there is a problem that a law is being passed and they're just putting it down to regulations. Now, that means that if Labor and Greens form the next government, Minister of Education Chloe Schwalbrick or Minister of Education Jan Tinetti or Ginny Anderson, they're given a free rein to introduce whatever regulations they want because the law's been passed. I mean, it's a pretty clean slate for them to do what they want, isn't it?
Oh, it's a total blank check. It's horrendous lawmaking. There is nothing good in this situation, from the lack of consultation to the excuses being made to the regulations and the pressure being put on homeschooling. I see it as just a direct desire to have control. And to illustrate the point, and of course it's a hypothetical, but if you do have a left-wing government, although you have to worry that a centre-right government is actually putting this through, starting to put reporting requirements on parents around how safe is their gender identity approaches within their homeschooling? How are they honouring the Treaty of Waitangi? Are they exploring climate change? So on and so forth. I mean, this is a controlling dynamic. And the fundamental thing amongst many aspects people have to get in their head is the government is basically authorising the bureaucrats, unelected, faceless individuals, to draft the regulations. And if we're naive enough to think that they're going to consult the parents after the fact without actually even wanting to talk to them before it, we're completely and totally naive. As I say, there is nothing good about this whatsoever, and these amendments should be put on hold, if not indefinitely, but it's certainly until they've talked to the homeschool community.
Okay. I might just come back to you for an action point before we leave this topic. But before we do that, Ro, what regulations should we put on homeschooling? Should it just be they can do whatever they like, we just trust them, or should there be some form of accountability?
Well, I think there already is in the legislation that exists now. Simon, I heard that excellent interview you did with Cynthia, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it, from the Homeschooling Council. And she said the legislation, there's regulations within the legislation already, but they just haven't had the resources to actually go out and apply them. So, yeah, there does need to be some regulation because we need to know kids just aren't being kept at home and not educated at all. But use the levers they've already got rather than creating more completely unknown regulations.
Tanya, from your understanding, do you think homeschooling is regulated enough?
Enough? Probably yes. I don't think we need any more rules and regulations. So I agree with everything that everyone has already said. But, you know, there are so many, I know so many parents who do homeschool and their children are thriving. I have to say that. So that's me not just saying it for the sake of saying it. It's a fact. So...
Okay, I've got one that's just come through actually. Kathy says, we homeschooled our 3 girls in the early 90s. At that stage, we had visits from ERO yearly to check we were doing the job right, a good safety support. Peter, I mean, there's lots of regulations around Christian schools, isn't there? So should we have some regulation around homeschooling as well?
Well, as everyone has said, there is regulations now which are in place and which is great. I mean, I had 3 of my grandchildren homeschooled and they've all done brilliantly. And so I think, sure, there are some rogue parents out there. There's rogue things in every situation, but you never, you know, the trouble with all our red tape, we always want to make the rule for the lowest common denominator. And then everybody, you know, gets caught up in that net, and it's not a good way. So yes, there are regulations in place now, and they're good enough, and people are doing a great job out there. And there'll always be the odd rogue person that obviously, hopefully, will get found out.
Okay, so Simon, where to from here? I mean, just this comment from Justine, who says disappointed Winston, New Zealand First, basically has signed off on it, act as well. So look, have they deliberately gone looking for this? Change in the law, or are they just sort of ticking the box but haven't really looked into it? And therefore that leads to my next question for you, Simon, is how should people respond to this?
Look, I don't think we should be making any excuses for the Cabinet, for any of the 3 parties, National, ACT or New Zealand First. It's quite possible they didn't notice this detail with the sheer volume they're dealing with, but this is what we pay them for. And, you know, for all 3 parties, this sort of regulation is anathema. It is giving far too much power, as I say, to the bureaucrats. And Roe is right. There's already existing scope within regulations. And you know what? If the Ministry of Education is worried about the quality of homeschooling, go and look at state education and all the problems that are going on there, including with the teachers and the enormous problems that a number of them have. By the way, that the Teaching Council tries to always push under the carpet. So let's just, have that as a side conversation. I mean, fundamentally, you don't have to be a homeschooler to be worried about this. This is a government trying to take more control of your education, be it homeschooling, Christian schools, wider integrated schools, private schools, whatever. So email your local MP. That's the main thing to do. If you've got energy after Straight Talk tonight, email your local MP and say, this is not right. You should be consulting. Why are you doing this? What is the problem? And I'd suggest too, fire a letter off or an email to the party leaders, probably to the two minor parties in particular, ACT and New Zealand First, to say, why did you do this? I think those would be, for me, encouragements, always to done diplomatically and politely. But, short, sharp email does the trick.
Okay, and if you go to Family First, you'll see the stories, family ignored as government quietly moves to extend its powers. So you'll see that on the homepage, or just Google families ignored and it'll quickly come up, and down the bottom it's got the email addresses for both the Minister of Education, Erica Stanford, and also you can find your local MPs as well. All right, now I want to come back and I want to talk about the biology bill and the definition of woman and man straight after the break.
If you're looking for conservative conversations, commentary and content, then Family First has them all. And best of all, thanks to our thousands of supporters, there's no paywall or pesky advertisements. Check out our lineup. Our regular video blog from Bob McCoskrie called McBlog, with a regular dose of commentary around social and family issues. Family Matters, with guests from around the world and here in New Zealand, focusing on a range of issues, and hosted by Simon O'Connor. Built on Truth, as Samuel Bilton takes a youth-focused dive into some of the contemporary cultural issues. The No Fluff Zone with Ala Pomalele offers her candid insights on key social and moral topics. Our very popular weekly political analysis show, Straight Talk, with a panel of guests who are unashamedly and unapologetically social conservatives. Political Playback, Thursdays live at 5 p.m, as we discuss the week in Parliament and New Zealand politics in general from a conservative viewpoint. And our newest feature, Counterculture, a young team of panellists discussing faith, culture and the issues shaping millennials and Gen Z. Finally, start each weekday informed. 7:30 a.m. live Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Daybreak with Bob McCoskrie, as he gives an overview on key stories you need to be aware of. 7:30 a.m. live Tuesday and Thursday. A more in-depth discussion, Solid Ground with Simon O'Connor. You can access all these important discussions in the format that you prefer. Watch, read, listen. We will continue to promote strong families, marriages, religious freedom and the value of life based on the footprint of faith which has underpinned New Zealand for generations, and most importantly, be a voice for your values. Visit familyfirst.nz to see the full lineup and latest episodes. Go to familyfirst.nz and join the conversation.
There is
All right,
a
welcome
word
back.
for this bill, and it is irresponsible. The reason
That is the legislation definitions of woman and man bill. It was passed the first reading. Irresponsible, it was described by Labor. And the opposition were the opposition. They were the only ones to vote against it. There were a few doozy comments. Actually, let me just play a little bit more of that.
There is a word for this bill, and it is irresponsible. The reason it is irresponsible is because it creates a platform for hate.
I, along with so many millions of New Zealanders and so many billions of people around this world, am tired. We're tired of governments throwing minorities under the bus. So what is a woman, Mr. Speaker? Whatever the hell she wants to be.
Okay, so there was a lot more of that in Parliament. Ro, I'm just going to let you go loose on that because I just wanted you on the panel, especially tonight, to discuss this. Labor, Greens, Te Pāti Māori, they don't want to define male or female. Did anything surprise you about the debate last week?
Oh, now they're all focused on all the more important things. Like, seriously, some of the crap that they've pushed through. This is important for half the population, actually having sex-based rights that we can protect. A few weeks ago, I tried to intervene on a court case that, or a judicial review, Auckland Pride have taken against the Minister for Sport because he finally binned those horrendous transgender guidelines that allowed anyone to self-ID into any sport, and basically if any females complained or dared to raise concerns, they were to be basically told off and put through a bit of a process. It's so frustrating. And the reason we had to intervene was because Auckland Pride, as part of their application for judicial review, had mentioned the Bill of Rights and the Human Rights Act and the sex-based protections in them. There was a decision by the Attorney General in 2006 for Crown Law that did this interpretation of the Human Rights Act, that they said that the sex included gender identity. That has never been legislated. It has never been tested in court. Yet Crown Law and Sport New Zealand were both going to take a nuanced position in that case and not argue for sex-based rights. So we were left with no choice but to intervene. But unfortunately, the judge didn't see it necessary for us to be there. I get so sick of it. There was some positives, though, apart from Nicola Grigg, whose speech was horrendous. But ACT, who have ignored this issue totally, actually did some really great speeches on it. So that was a positive. But no, Chloe. Anyway, make my blood boil.
Now, actually, I've got
the big story of
not
last
that one.
night.
Sorry, which number is it? I'll just have to. Just trying to. It's a photo of me presenting the petition to. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Thank you, Gordy. There we are. Tanya, this was a couple of years ago, presenting the petition for What is a Woman? That's Sue Reid, our board member on the far right. Winston Peters, the leader, and you received the petition on our behalf. So it's actually all your fault. Yep.
Back when I was young. Look how young I look back then.
No, it's just as good. But look, obviously you were aware of the issues that were going on. Why do you think this bill is so important? What do you say to those who say, oh, we've got more important things to discuss?
I always talk about the children who are affected by a lot of the legislation that is causing this problem. And it is the children who sadly have issues with their body, food, weight, and all that sort of stuff, but they've been labelled with gender dysphoria. And then they go through the horrific procedure of mutilating their bodies. Leave them the hell alone, excuse my language. Let them pass through it. Back in my day, we all had body image issues. We all didn't like it when our breasts started growing and everything else. Sorry for being so graphic, but I'm really passionate about this. There are teenagers out there who I feel are being abused by the system, and they're not being allowed to just go through the normalities of teenage years. This is who I was fighting for. And this is what I will always fight for. And also the parents who are watching their children suffer this way. Look at how many detransitioners are out there now who, if they could turn back time, but they can't. They've done irreparable damage. So a lot of people don't hear these stories, though. They don't. They just think, oh, man and woman, what's the big deal? So what? Well, there is a lot to be concerned about. And look, I was just thinking about the other day when I was an MP and we were at an event. And obviously I was being targeted. I went to the bathroom and there was a dude there with a dress on. And it, really did look like a dude with a dress on. And I didn't feel safe. I'm a strong, wild Croatian woman, but I still went out and got another woman because I wanted her to be in the bathroom whilst that dude was in there. We all want our safe space, but more importantly, the children need to be protected. What is wrong with society? I could go on, Bob, but everyone else needs a good rant.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was speaking to a friend today who shared that she was having an operation and she was in a ward at a certain hospital. I won't name it, but it was a mixed ward, and she felt she felt terrible because there were two dudes and there were two women in the ward. She said it was she just felt so uncomfortable. In terms of using the toilet for showering and just, sharing a room with two unknown men. And so basically when her family weren't around, she just shut the curtain and just wanted privacy. And I thought, what hospital does mixed wards? I don't know if that's normal or not. Anyway, Simon, I did pick up, I think we lost, Ro, you're back. Nice to have you back. I think you dropped off. Thought you hadn't paid your power bill. That's okay. You got cancelled and you'd only been into the program for 40 minutes. Simon, I actually found that I had this little file on record. It's actually from the 2023 budget, Grant Robertson's last budget. So you would have been in the House when he said this. Have a listen to the terrible genderising that he does.
It is worth noting our wellbeing budget approach applies a gender budgeting lens into Budget 2023, expanding on last year's pilot program. This year it looked at 27 initiatives across 15 agencies. And this lens has influenced the range of investments, including in the cost of living space, and has been an important and useful indicator of whether the budget is meeting our wellbeing objectives. For example, we know that on average, women have lower KiwiSaver balances and retirement income than men. Time out of the workforce for parenting responsibilities is one key reason for this.
Oh, that's interesting. So a budget built around female things. Simon, how are they ever going to cope now?
Well, I think for me, I think about how to sort of step back from the particulars to illustrate the wider stupidities. And there's one of them. You'll have the Grant Robertsons and the Chloe Srawbucks. In fact, in her own little speech a couple of days ago, she misgenders people. They just can't help but fall back into normality and actually recognising biological women when it suits them. So they want to talk about pay equity or the like. Oh, very much women. But then they switch back into the lies. And I suppose that's the second point. At day's end, this is about reality, empirical reality versus belief. And we need to work our lives around reality, not belief in this space. And fundamentally, when it comes to our members of parliament, including, I'm sad to say, the minister, a woman, they're lying when they try to fudge their approach to biological sex and say that, men can be women. They're not just deluded, they're lying, because 99.9% of them know darn well what they're talking about. And the third point, and it's Chloe's speech where she says, what is a woman? It's whatever you want it to be. This is just a classic throwaway lines. You can't say that. Every word, everything has a definition, whether it's a table, a giraffe, a light, a cup, a woman, or a man. What is it? And then you can say whether you are or not. What Chloe and all the rest of them are doing is erasing women. If you say women means whatever you want, it means nothing. And the experience of women, and look, I'll always defer to likes of Tanya and Ro, my wife, and others. It's erasing women. It's making women absolutely zero and nothing. And that's probably the final point before I, go on my rant myself. Notice that we're talking about women here. We barely ever talk about men, because actually that is not ultimately the target. Women aren't trying to force their way, by and large, into men's spaces. It's men forcing their way into women's spaces, and not just that, wanting to control those spaces, control the language, control the dynamic. It's abuse, and it has to end.
Yeah, I just can't figure out why women don't want to come into men's toilets. For the life of me, I cannot figure that one out. But anyway, maybe I'll do a survey. But Peter, this is the argument that will be used against anybody who supports us returning to biological reality. This is what senior leaders in Labour and National said.
What do you make of New Zealand First Members' bill defining gender?
It's just another distraction. It's part of a tactic, I think, from New Zealand First, but to some degree the government, to try and get us having debates about these sorts of things instead of talking about the fact that unemployment's going up, that wages aren't keeping up with the cost of bills.
In relation to the bill, I actually agree with Kieran to an extent. It is a distraction. Biggest thing on the planet, talking about the definition of a woman. I would argue no.
Okay. Peter, how do you answer that?
Well, I think it's an absolutely a shame, and it kind of shows where we're at as a world. Turning away from God, turning away from Christ, really, to be honest. In the beginning, God created male and female. And it's just such a shame that we have to bring in legislation to try to define a woman. I think it is so sad that society has come to this. I mean, we've all read just recently about a transsexual that won the 3 jumps, long jump, high jump, and the other jump over in America, and took away from the girls that were competing there. And I had to smile at Chloe. You know, there she goes on about, you know, billions in the minorities. Well, if they're minority, there's certainly not billions of them, right? There's only 8 billion on the planet. So, you know, it's just all this extreme language that they talk about. Simon's right. I mean, I agree with every panelist. But as I said, it's just such a shame that we even are having to put through legislation what a woman is. Everybody knows what a woman is. Every baby, little kid growing up knows mummy and a daddy until they're brainwashed with some ideology from you know what's happened. We've got the highest percentage of gay MPs in our parliament right now in the world, and so you know what do we expect? All this pushback. So we do need to protect our women. We need to protect their spaces. Men need protecting, women need protecting, and you know, it's just ridiculous that we have to have legislation to do that.
Ro, just from your research, I'm just interested to know in terms of the political parties. I mean, I thought National might struggle to get across the line. From what I've heard them say afterwards and before, they don't seem to be fully convinced of why they voted for the first reading. But also even ACT. I mean, they seem to have done a complete 180 because they voted for the conversion therapy law. They voted for the birth certificates. In fact, when Brooke Van Velden first became the Minister of Internal Affairs, she gave parents the right to choose what parent they wanted to be on the birth certificate. So for ACT to suddenly turn around and say, we need to get back to biological reality, Ro, do you think ACT have seen the light, or is there something else going on?
Maybe they've just started listening to their voters, because ACT voters, like at all the polling we've done on the sports issue, ACT voters are almost 100% opposed to this nonsense, males and female sport, right? And we did some updated polling from your poll, I think from a year ago, about this legislation. And ACT voters, again, were the highest ones opposed to allowing this to continue. But, you know, National needs to pull its head in too and start listening to voters. And I think what we saw is, because I don't know if you did an email campaign, but we certainly pushed a big email campaign. Speak Up for Women did the same, really canvassing hard the ACT and National MPs to push them hard to support this bill. And, you know, there was a number of them, including some very painful ones in Christchurch, I think you mentioned on your show, was it this morning? Oh gosh, those interviews were terrible. These two Christchurch MPs who I've never heard of before, but she mentioned, the female MP, whose name I do not know, mentioned the number of emails she had. So I think that's made a difference. So what I would say to people is keep those emails going. We need to make sure that this is voted all the way through, not just let National off and ACT off with voting it for the first reading to appease some agreement they've got with New Zealand First. No, they actually need to appease their voters, and their voters want this legislation.
Yeah. I just want to ask the ex-politicians, Simon and Tanya, what advice do you have for people making submissions? Tanya, what would you say is, I mean, we're going to put out some information on how they make the submission, when they need to do it by, and just some guidelines so that they can write their own. But what's your advice for people who are going to make a submission? And we want everybody watching right now to make one.
Speak really honestly about what this means to you. For those of you who want to oppose it, just because you're going to scream louder and make more noise doesn't mean that you're smarter. So I really hope that these submissions, the oral submissions, doesn't turn into a circus in the select committee, because it's not pleasant to be in. That's not what this forum is for. And I really hope that people don't use this to divide even more, leaders as well as the people. So just be respectful of one another.
Yeah, Simon, I thought that was interesting in the first reading, that it was actually a Labor MP who was being told off for being, for shouting derogatory terms and being non-inclusive, and you know, yeah, it was interesting that he was being called out for not being inclusive. But what's your advice to people making submissions?
Well, building on what Tanya said, I mean, don't be performative, don't be overly emotional, just be straightforward. To the point, polite, respectful, but hit the points clearly and quickly within a page. You don't need much more in this space unless you really want to delve in deeply. Short, polite, get to the point. Biological reality matters, and to the way that people can express it. But if MPs are unable to express reality in this space, how can we believe them in anything else? But short, polite, get to the point. Look at what GenSpec, what Roe and others are saying, what Family First is saying. Take some steers. from there. But yeah, stick to the point. And yeah, respect the MPs too. As Tanya says, it gets exhausting reading hundreds, if not thousands, of the same, often if they're emotionally laden, submissions. It just sort of makes you age terribly.
Yeah. What do you say to those who say, look, Parliament's got more important things to be discussing?
What's more important than discussing reality? And what's more important than one of the most fundamental dynamics of our humanity, which is male and female, as I keep coming back to, and maybe I'm boring people with this, but if the MPs cannot work out what a male and a female is, what a boy and a girl is, how can we believe them on anything else, from the RMA to the budget they're releasing on Thursday to whatever else? If they can't work out what a male and a female is, they don't deserve to be in the Parliament.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can't figure out that an unborn child is human either. Ro, the whole intersex thing is always used as a wedge, isn't it? But it's actually misleading, isn't it?
It is very misleading because intersex people are either male or female as well. And there's very few people in New Zealand, in fact, I haven't heard of any who have been wrongly sexed at birth. That tends to happen in African societies where they don't have doctors on hand, etc. And so that's why we've seen in sport that intersex males have been able to compete in female sport. For instance, at the Rio Games, the gold, silver and bronze in the 800 metres women's race was all male. But that wasn't known then. So it's a red herring, and they bring it in because they think that it helps their argument, but it's a bit like, lagging off the whole gay rights thing as well. It's just, this is a different kettle of fish. When gay rights came in, they didn't take away anyone else's rights. Trans rights totally undermines women's rights. And I just want to read out, I don't know if you've heard Owen Jones. He's a British journalist, left-wing commentator, and he's been very, very vocal on the whole trans rights movement, and he's given women like me quite a bit of grief over the years. Well, last night he put up a tweet or post on X, and it basically, he finally showed himself for who he is. If trans women use men's toilets, they will be subjected to humiliation, abuse and violence. Anyone with any sense knows this, which is why in practice trans women will not use men's toilets and will just increasingly be driven out of society. So what he's saying is that men have a problem with the acceptance of the diversity of their sex. It's a woman's problem to fix.
Yeah. A little bit like my friend in the ward who didn't want to be sharing a ward with dudes.
Yeah, we totally disregard the feelings, the fairness, the dignity and the safety of females when we allow males to self-identify into their spaces. But it's all about them. This argument is never about females going into male spaces at all.
Yeah, and that funny thing about the Turf Island skit that we showed at the beginning was that they were mocking the fact that there was that podium for first place. And of course that was getting at, as you alluded to, where in California, if you have a trans guy who's competing in the women's section and he comes first, then the first biological girl also gets to stand on the top podium as well. That's the way they get around it. I mean, that's just acknowledging the problem in the first place. Peter, I do want to ask you a slightly loaded question, and I apologise for this, but for church leaders who are watching now or listening or watching this later on, what's your advice to them? Should they be speaking up on this issue? Is this an issue that they need their voice heard on?
Well, I think people do need to speak up, not only pastors, but everybody. I mean, I talk about on other issues like the abortion issue. I talk to doctors in my church and other people. We all need to speak up on these issues, and pastors need to speak up, not only obviously as citizens. Sometimes people think pastors shouldn't have an opinion about these things, but we're citizens as well, of course, and obviously, be trying to be sharing things with people in order to endeavour to do that. Over the years, we've done a number of things, even as a church. But I'd like to ask Tanya and Simon, because I know a lot of people, you do get tired of writing letters to Parliament, and you just get back the standard reply, from their secretary. It's just a standardised reply. And we've all seen, even, going back to the homosexual law reform, which I'm old enough to go back to in the 80s, and, the largest petition per head capita, they still rammed it through. They get on with their agenda, they push it through, and, making submissions. Obviously, I'm not saying let's give up, But I'm just asking you as two ex-MPs, because people do get pretty tired and they say, what's the point of writing or what's the point of seeing my MP? They don't listen and so forth. I'm sure you've heard this before. And so I'd just like to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, Tanya, what do you think?
I used to love getting emails directly to me rather than, the submissions are great as well for select committee, but I always read them all. I do think I missed one because someone told me about that once, but, I really respected that people took the time to write to me personally, and I always read them. But mind you, I was just a new MP and a backbencher, so I didn't get that many probably. Never give up. You must always try, but often the decision at the end of the day is a party decision on which way things go in a select committee. So you'd agree with that, Simon?
Yeah, look, it's absolutely worthwhile. I mean, it's often just strengthening the hand of the particular MPs. I mean, I've lost most of the political battles that I've fought, be it in the life issue or in this space and elsewhere. But actually receiving emails from people and giving their views actually helps in terms, of giving me some ammunition to stand up in the caucus or speeches in Parliament. So it makes a difference. And I've said this quite a few times in different places. The fight is as important as what the outcome is. I'd much prefer to go down with my boots on fighting and lose than not do anything at all. And just really encourage people to write. And look, like Tanya, I love getting people's emails. I replied to each of them individually. Not form replies, that's a whole different side. But if people wrote me, I did it myself, not my staff. I did it myself because actually you want to hear from people. And please never underestimate the encouragement or the critique that it gives the individual MPs. The overall result may not be what we want at times, but it does make a difference.
Thank you.
Look, we're just about we are out of time. Ro, I'd just be keen to get your update on the whole dudes and women's sports. I mean, have we made progress on that? I mean, you just say that the Minister of Sport changed the regulations and pushed back on Raelene Castle and those who were quite happy for the confusion, but it hasn't been fully solved, has it? It has at the Olympic level, of course, but has it at grassroots New Zealand?
No, it was interesting. When the Olympics produced those flawed rules years ago, it filtered down to grassroots sports very quickly. This isn't. Unfortunately, the rainbow groups, the trans lobby are very powerful and they have their tentacles in everywhere. And we have a whole lot of sporting leaders who are probably more worried about their career paths than ensuring fairness and safety for their female athletes. So it is a very slow road. I do believe we're going to win it because common sense has to prevail, right? Eventually, but it's taking a lot longer than I would have hoped. But yeah, so the Sport New Zealand transgender guidelines are gone, but the infiltration of the trans lobby in sports has not. And in Sport New Zealand, Raelene Castle was reappointed. Apparently out of 32 other applicants, she was still the best. And she's the one that's really pushed this through. So we keep fighting.
Okay, look, we didn't get to a couple of topics, but that's okay because this obviously the homeschooling and also the back to biology are very important issues. So we did want to spend time on that. So really appreciate your input. So Peter, Tanya, Ro, Simon, thank you very much. And we've got a great. Sorry, I didn't get to all the comments here. There were lots coming through. Somebody actually said they wrote to you, Simon, just after you left Parliament. Perhaps you didn't get it. I think you shut down your email address the minute you walked out the door, didn't you? So
it actually is, Tanya, it shuts down remarkably quickly. You lose access. Yeah, So thank you if they did, but those emails never reached me. But I'm still on social media or via Family First.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll pass on your email address and they can send all the catch-up ones. There's only 4,090 that they have to send you, so all good. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll be back. Oh, no, we won't. We won't be here next Monday night because we'll be celebrating King's birthday along with the No Kings rally. So, next Monday night is a public holiday, so we're going to take a public holiday as well. So you have a great long weekend coming up and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks to the panel. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.